Welcome to Green Dot Daily. This is Action Network Sports Betting Show. I'm Maria Marino. We're live weekdays at 3 Eastern on our YouTube channel and the Action app. You can also find us on demand. Today on the show, we will react to Game 3 of the NBA Finals and look ahead to Game 4. We'll also talk about the MLB rookie that's generating lots of buzz and whether you want to buy in on his team. And we're going to get some picks for the Men's College World Series, but we start in the NHL. The Stanley Cup Final has been lopsided so far, with the Vegas Golden Knights having scored 3 times as many goals as the Florida Panthers in games 1 and 2. Here are the stat leaders for the series. Notable is that Matthew Tkachuk has 36 penalty minutes and only 1 goal with no assists thus far. Let's say hello to our hockey expert, Michael Leboff. And in your mind, what's the primary reason the Knights are up 2-0 in this series?
Yeah, they're just basically winning every battle that you need to win in a playoff series. They're getting the better goaltending. They're playing more disciplined. They're converting on the chances that they get. And they are just flat out playing better in the 120-minute sample size that we have. I thought Florida was pretty good in game 1. At 5-on-5, but they fell apart in game 2. It looked a little bit like Vegas's last series against Dallas. They went up 2-0, and Dallas honestly could have felt a little hard done by the scoreline in that series. And then everybody expected a pretty big pushback in game 3, and Dallas played its worst game. And I think that's what we saw in game 2 was just an effort that came out flat from Florida. And I would expect that would be their worst game of the series.
Well, with that being said, who are you picking for tonight's game 3?
I like Florida. I think that the line just generally looks about right. We could see this thing close as a pick 'em. It's -120 now, but the way I want to bet Florida is the same way I bet them in game 2, and it didn't go well. Actually, the exact opposite happened. I thought that goaltender Adin Hill is he's beatable, right? He's a career backup in the NHL. He's a 27-year-old. Very rarely do we see goalies just become elite out of nowhere. That's no knock on him. He's played great, and being an NHL goaltender and a backup NHL goaltender, that means you're one of the best 70 goalies in the entire world. But he's not at the level. He should not be at this level, and it should be pretty unlikely that he keeps this level up. So I'm going to once again bet against Hill, kind of specifically with the way I'll bet this game. I like Florida to, if they do win, to win in a rout, and like we saw to Bobrovsky in game 2, maybe things just fall apart for Hill here. So I like Florida on the -1.5 puck line. I think if you want to get a little frisky and play like the -2.5 or -3.5 or Florida team totals and go find yourself a nice price, you can. But betting into a Florida route, that's how I'm going to lose tonight.
We'll see about that. How about from a prop perspective? What are you looking at?
Back on the Gus bus, Gus Forsling, the defenseman for Florida. He's kind of like an all situations guy. Plays a ton of minutes, can get some power play time, can kill penalties. He should play a ton here. Florida's down 0-2. Paul Maurice is probably going to empty the tank. This is a must-win game. So you're going to see him, Aaron Ekblad. Those guys will get leaned on pretty heavily. Wouldn't be surprised if Forsling plays north of 30 minutes, even in a game that doesn't go to overtime. And that should lead to opportunities for him to get on the board. He's very good in the offensive zone. He's a good skater, good finisher. He's also very good at joining rushes late and being that fourth man in, and that's Florida's best route to score, turning the puck over and counterattacking. And they love looking for that late man in, that fourth man, and Forsling's very, very good at it. So I'm back on the Gus bus. This is the definition of insanity for me here. It's basically the same exact way I bet game 2, but I'll stick to my guns and go down with the ship or the Gus bus.
Well, maybe he is due this time around. Puck drops at 8 Eastern tonight. Michael Leboff, good luck, and thanks for joining us.
You got it.
To the NBA, 30-point triple-doubles from Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic were too much for the Heat last night. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo scored 28 and 22 respectively. And while Bam grabbed 17 boards, Game 3 had the biggest rebounding disparity of the series so far in favor of the Nuggets. With that, we bring in Action Network writer Brandon Anderson. What was the biggest surprise for you in terms of how Game 3 played out?
Yeah, I thought Denver decided to finally just play some heat ball. I think they met Miami where they were at in Miami physically, but just the way the Heat have played the game. They finally stopped complaining a little bit about the officiating. It was a very uneven whistle both directions, and they just started winning physically. They took the game inside the arc. They won the game inside the three-point line. And I think they kind of turned the faucet off for all those undrafted Heat culture guys that we've been hearing so much about. Gabe Vincent and Max Strus went 3 of 17. Really, outside of Bam and Butler, nobody on Miami showed up. Caleb Martin had that 8-point stretch in 1 minute. That's as many points as he's had the whole rest of the series combined. So this was a game where Denver said, oh, okay, you want to do this 2-star thing? Well, let's go 2-on-2 then. Let's do our stars and your stars. And Denver stars were just a lot better. Jokic and Murray, first teammates with the finals triple doubles. First teammates in history in any game with 30-point triple doubles. Granted, Murray, I think, got his with like 5 seconds left in a blowout, but that's all right.
Still counts.
Everything still counts. And of course, Maria, the most important stat of the night, the Denver Nuggets are now 2-0 when I heat nuggets for dinner during the game. So sorry to Coach Malone for game 2. I'll stay on it for game 4.
Oh my goodness. Heat up those chicken nuggets. Although, heating up the nuggets, I guess it could go either way. I was just going to say though, Jamal Murray, just looked like a man on a mission from the moment the ball was tipped, really set the tone. And then Denver just completely upped their defensive intensity. And like you said, would not let some of those role players for Miami beat them. The series continues on Friday. Denver is laying the points. What are your thoughts on how to bet game 4?
Yeah, I think you're right with Murray really getting going again in this game. Jokic is going to win MVP, rightfully so, if Denver goes on to win the finals. It's Nikola Jokic. This is how it's going to go. But Jamal Murray, I think, has really been, in a weird way, the story of the playoffs. His second stardom for Denver, I think, has been, I guess, the surprise in many ways. We already knew Nikola Jokic was going to do the 30-point triple doubles. He's had, I think, now 5 of those in the playoffs. I believe he's had something like 11 out of the 15 triple doubles. We knew we were going to get this from him. For Murray to be going out and doing this each night is, I think, the big swing factor for Denver. I like Denver in game 4. I think that I'm going to go with the Denver team total over 106.5 points. That's just a really low number, right? For these Nuggets, for this offense, that's a low number. I know the pace has been really slow, but it can hardly get slower, right? It can only speed up. I like this path because we can win with a win or a loss. Denver is actually over the 106.5 all 4 of their losses in the playoffs so far. They're actually over this 16 out of 18 playoff games, so 89% hit rate. And I know the other games mostly have been faster than this series, but still hard to argue with that outcome. So yeah, I think it's a good spot for Denver to get some points.
It's a good point you bring up about the rest, because I think between game 1 and game 2, the days off really helped not only Miami to prepare and get right, but it sort of killed that Denver momentum. Now they're going to, try to keep riding that momentum. But look, the Heat are not going to contain Jokic. The key for them is going to be what you said, trying to contain Murray. But this number is on the low side. All right, we're gonna switch gears a little bit here. I know you're a resident Vikings fan, so I wanted to address some NFL news. You're obviously an NFL expert as well. I should probably add some credibility to that title. So some news, reportedly the Vikings are releasing Dalvin Cook. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer. It's a bummer to see Cook go. He's electric runner. He's been a lot of fun to watch. But Vikings fans kind of knew this was coming. This is sort of the soft rebuild that's happening. Cook is gone now. Adam Thielen, Eric Kendricks, and Zadarius Smith from the defense. Guys other than Smith who have been here for a long time for this core of the team. This is just kind of direction the team had to go. Minnesota had a great year, 13-4. We all knew that was not a 13-win team, right? Even Minnesota fans could honestly say, okay, this is like a 500 team that every metric in the world was saying was way outperforming. So it hurts as a Vikings fan. It hurts in the short term, but it saves the team $9 million in cap room. That's the business of the NFL these days. And I think it's the right move, big picture. It's management being honest with who are we? We're not a 13-win team. It'd be easy to look at that and say, well, let's just go all in again. One more run, get another guy, go for the Super Bowl. This was not a team that was like on the cusp of the Super Bowl. So I think it's the right move. Alexander Madison will get his turn at running back. Jordan Addison at receiver, the rookie. It's time to kind of turn the corner. My take as a Vikings fan, throughout my life, we have always had somehow a blessing and a curse. There's always one super awesome running back or receiver. We had Adrian Peterson. We had Chris Carter for a while. And then when he was turning, we had Randy Moss. As soon as the new guy comes, seems like the old guy goes away. Justin Jefferson season in Minnesota. Dalvin Cook had to go. We only get one. We only get one of them. So it's Jefferson season now. And I can only say, with all the guys moving on and team turning the corner, I can only hope Kirk Cousins is next.
Ouch. It's too bad they didn't have more success with Cook. I always feel like it's the running backs that end up being the ones to suffer when you're like trying to save, salary cap space and all that. It's part of the nature of the league there. But listen, always fun to talk hoops with you. And for more, make sure you check out the latest Buckets podcast. I heard the Crew went 3-1 on their best bets for game 3 of the finals. Not too shabby. Brandon Anderson, thank you for joining the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. To baseball, Reds rookie Elly De La Cruz has made a splash. His preseason odds to be NL Rookie of the Year were at plus 1,500, then plus 2,200 on May 31st. When he was called up 2 days ago, he was back down to plus 1,800, but now is at plus 350. As we welcome in our MLB expert, Anthony Dabbundo, how do you feel the market is shaping up for De La Cruz and the Reds as a whole?
Look, I think I was on the show last week when I said I liked the Reds at 30-1 to win the division. That had more to do kind of with the state of the division being relatively weak at the top, with Milwaukee and Pittsburgh kind of being vulnerable favorites in first and second place currently. But now the market's gotten a little out of hand on Elly De La Cruz here. I mean, all the hype is going toward Elly, and look, it's fun. The profile is amazing. He's fast. He hits the ball really hard. He hits the ball very far. Like, the tools and the skills that he's put on display as a 20, 21-year-old in Major League Baseball in his first 2 games is impressive, but he's not without his flaws. And I think we need to remember that when you're going to see a ton of one-way action in the market, everybody wants to bet Elly to homer. Everybody wants to bet Elly, to do well. And we want to root for this guy. And it's been an electric factory in Cincinnati with 2 straight walk-off wins. They lose today, but there also is the swing and miss in the profile. He struck out 30% in double and in early parts of AAA this year. Now, he did show signs of starting to cut that strikeout rate in AAA, which is, I think, very encouraging. But the swing and miss in the profile, the hit tool, and if you look at some of his scouting grades, that's the one thing that I think is going to hold him back early in his career. And we've seen this before with just O'Neal Cruz, no relation. Last year in Pittsburgh, he came up and he was making these razzle-dazzle plays at short, and he was hitting the ball really hard and really far. Well, what happened with O'Neal is that his strikeout rates were near 40% for the first couple months of his time in the majors. And so he had the occasional home run and definitely flashed the skills. We all saw it, but it took him a while to adjust to major league stuff and major league pitching and to figure out, that hit tool problem. And I think Elly's headed in that similar direction. And I actually think there's going to be value betting against him. I know I bet his under a half total bases today. I lost. He had an infield single and 3 strikeouts, but I think the strikeouts are going to be a real issue for him early in the career. 6 strikeouts now in his first 11 at-bats in the big leagues. So certainly going to be an issue. And I don't really like him in the Rookie of the Year market because Corbin Carroll has been one of the best players, not just amongst rookies, but in the league. He's top 10 in baseball in WAR. He's having a historically good rookie season. Homers, steals, the profile is really impressive. Great defense. So I think Carroll, unless he gets hurt, runs away with Rookie of the Year. I don't really see value, especially now at this number, in backing De La Cruz to win Rookie of the Year. even if he may help the Reds, and the Reds may be competitive as a team in that division.
Putting a little bit of a damper on the De
I
La
know.
Cruz hype, but I'm glad you took accountability for the fact that you lost your bet against him today. That doesn't mean there's not future value on betting against him, as you said. But let's move on to today's slate and what you have in mind as far as picks. I understand it's going to be Yankees White Sox related, and I wasn't sure we were going to get this in because yesterday, obviously, their game was postponed due to air quality and is being made up today as part of a doubleheader.
Yeah, I guess yesterday was unsafe to play one game, but it's safer today. They've upgraded the New York City weather to unhealthy, so that's good now. We're back in the unhealthy range. But they're going to play two today, I guess, with the new, the new setup here. So I like the over in the first game, and it all has to do with Luis Severino's velocity, which was down multiple ticks in his last start on Friday night against the Dodgers. That's a concern for Severino, somebody who's had injury issues in the past and just came back from injury and was looking really impressive until the last start when his velocity was down. He gave up a bunch of homers and got shelled by the Dodgers. So now, with his downgraded projection and my continued concern for Lance Lynn, who is one of those, bigger build pitchers that worked pretty slow generally, came into this season in the new pitch clock, still is on the slower end of pitcher speed in terms of between pitches, and has seen a significant drop off in his stuff. Plus, he's a very heavy fastball guy. And so the decline in his fastball stuff has really hurt him. He throws that cutter, the sinker, the fastball. All of those pitches have been worse, and he's been getting hit much harder as a result. So even without Aaron Judge in the Yankee lineup, I do like the over in that game at 8. And hopefully we're able to get some baseball in today. I see that the numbers are improving in New York with air quality, even as I can feel the dirt in my throat from Philly here as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, hopefully the air is halfway decent there in the Bronx for both the players and anyone going to the game. Anthony, thanks so much for stopping by the show.
Thanks for having me.
Sticking with baseball, but of the college variety, here are the latest odds to win the Men's World Series. Wake Forest tops the list at plus 350, followed by LSU and Florida at plus 600, Virginia at plus 700, and Tennessee at plus 900. So, does Wake deserve to be the favorite? Colin Wilson answered that on the Big Bets on Campus podcast.
You can't argue with what Wake is doing. Number one in the nation in ERA, staff whip, number one in the nation. Top 10 home runs per game, on base percentage. So there's not a flaw. But we've seen teams like Tennessee last year. We've seen Arkansas in previous years where the number one seed gets to this point completely on fire, and then they don't make it to Omaha. And I've tweeted it. I've said it. The number one overall seed hasn't won it since 99. They haven't even been to Omaha since 18, and they haven't played in the championship round since 2009. So history is against Wake Forest. The stats, the numbers, and the projected odds are absolutely in favor of Wake Forest. So I'm not fading them.
And our Action Network senior writer, Colin Wilson, joins me now. So college baseball obviously heating up with the Supers this weekend. If someone is looking to bet and get involved, what is one thing they should know about betting on this sport?
Yeah, if you're going to bet on college baseball, the biggest thing to pay attention to is ace starters and bullpen usage. For instance, LSU has Paul Skins. He's going to be pitching in MLB later this year, but not before he dominates Friday nights all spring, all summer. He's going to pitch in the very first game against Kentucky. So when you're betting college baseball, you don't want to fade these aces that are going to be pitching in MLB pretty soon. And then again, you want to look at game 3 of these Super Series, which teams have burned their ace, burned their bullpen, because those are automatic overs in game 3.
Well, as you just talked about, number one seeds don't have, the best track record as far as winning the College World Series. So is there a title feature that you do like?
Yeah, I think everybody would like Wake to fall so we can get some odds, because you can't get Alabama odds thanks to the scandal. But if there are some dogs out there that you want, TCU, I'm not sure we can consider them an underdog anymore. Everybody seems to have a ticket in their back pocket after they smoked Fayetteville and smoked Arkansas in the Fayetteville region. Now they're going to get paired up. They get a home game home set with Indiana State. Indiana State was supposed to host this series, but they have to travel to Fort Worth because of some Special Olympics that are going on in Terre Haute. So TCU gets home field advantage. And then if they make it to Omaha, they're going to go up against the softest schedule, ORU or Oregon. Then they're going to have Virginia, Duke, all the big boys, the heavies, Wake Forest, LSU, Texas, Tennessee. They're on the other side of the bracket. TCU wouldn't even seed until the championship weekend. So 13-1, 14-1 on TCU, absolutely the way to go. It's a pretty easy path for them.
All right. How about a team specifically to win their regional and advance to Omaha? Do you have a pick there?
Yeah, Oral Roberts all the way. They're completely mispriced in the market right now against Oregon. They're traveling up to Eugene to take on the Ducks, and people are just flocking to the Ducks right now because they're the home team. They're a Pac-12 team. This is Oral Roberts. They're a religious school in South Tulsa that nobody pays attention to. But what you don't realize is they went to Stillwater and blew out Oklahoma State, beat Washington, had no problems with Dallas Baptist, and they have an RPI and strength of schedule. It's one of the best in the nation. All three of their starting pitchers this weekend are -180 to -200 based on base runs, FIP, xFIP, ERA. Oral Roberts should be -190 to win this series, and they're heavily mispriced. So, Golden Eagles all the way, praying hands. If you've been on that campus before, we're going to want Oral Roberts this weekend.
That's a great tip. And probably some basketball fans will be, an easy sell for them to bet on Oral Roberts. And Colin Wilson, just want to thank you for coming on the show and breaking this down. And also remind folks that you will have an article every day this weekend with picks and projections for individual games across super regionals that can be found in the Action app. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Remember, any picks we give out here on the show, you can easily reference. Just follow Green Dot Daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's all for this episode of Green Dot Daily. I'm Maria Marino. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again Friday to close out the week at 3 Eastern on our YouTube channel and the Action app.